Thank you. And once again, all of the proceeds from this program are going to the Columbus KTC Rebuilding Fund. And so today, all of you together with your generosity have raised more than $500 for the rebuilding of Columbus KTC. We're currently in the process of designing the shrine, and any gifts given during this time period from last week to when we get it raised, the next $125,000 that we hope to raise will be to pay for all of the construction of the shrine room, which includes the floor, the beautiful wooden pillars and beams, as well as some of the painting and the shrine itself. So, so thanks again for your generosity. We dedicate your merit. And now, Lama Losang, if you would please turn the wheel of Dharma for us, be very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Lama. Yes, it's my pleasure, and I thank all of you for attending. Some of you have been loyal to this teaching, and welcome back again. So just as to kind of fill you in, this has been, who may be new, this is a teaching on what is called the Golden Eight-Petaled Lotus. Often it's the eight-petaled lotus of Chinese medicine, but it is a path to health and harmony. It was given in 2600 BCE during the time of the Chinese Yellow Emperor. And there are 8 sections, beginning with meditation and self-cultivation, which is the first. And this was for the training of physicians, but it is more than just the training of physicians. It is, as the first one says, it is for self-cultivation, for human beings. And the second is Qigong and Tai Chi, movement, to exercise. The third is diet and nutrition. The fourth was a body work, Tui Na. We did some acupressure points, for those of you who are here for that. And this is the fifth of the 8, which has to do with cosmology, the I Ching, and a divination, a Tibetan divination called Mo, which I will go over. Some of you may have some familiarity with it. If we could, I'd like to know if you do have some familiarity, so I know my audience a little better. So if you have some experience or study, maybe you could raise your hand in the chat in some way to let us know if you have had some experience with it. So that is the fifth, which we're going to be doing today. And then the sixth is feng shui and astrology. And the seventh is herbal medicine, and the eighth is acupuncture. So as I mentioned, in 2600 BCE, during the time of the Yellow Emperor, meditation and Qigong were considered the 2 most essential branches of medicine, the most subtle and therefore the most powerful. And they arise out of one's personal practice. One has to do this to get the result. It doesn't happen by accident. And whether you're training as a physician, or you're training to be a bodhisattva, or someone that has some cultivating their Buddha nature, this is a path that can be followed. As I say, it's a path for health and harmony. All of these aspects, we could say health and happiness, but you know, the Buddha's first noble truth is the truth of suffering. So there is going to be suffering, there's going to be happiness, but harmony, I think, is a better word. To be in harmony with nature, to be in harmony with one another, to be in harmony with yourself. So this is a path for health and harmony. And feng shui, which has to do with the placement of things, and herbal medicine, obviously, we could spend years talking about herbal medicine, and the training as an acupuncturist is huge. You know, I studied 4 years in Oxford, England, to study, and I'm, as most of you know, a licensed acupuncturist in the state of Florida, and have been practicing for a long time. So those are the 8 petals of our Golden Eight-Petaled Lotus: meditation, Qigong and Tai Chi, diet, nutrition, body work, acupuncture or acupressure, and Tui Na, which is a pressure or type of massage. And today, the I Ching and Mo. This is going to be somewhat autobiographical in a way, because these are all things that I have studied and practiced and continue to practice. And I'm going to give you some examples from my life on how I used Mo, or how it was actually Khenpo Karto Rinpoche who introduced me to Mo, and the I Ching, which I will give you an example. So let's begin. The I Ching is, do we have a response there to people who use the I Ching? Let's just take a look at that.
Yes, Lama. There are 2 people. One uses the I Ching, one has dabbled in I Ching, and another participant said they dabble a little bit, but I think those are the only 3 people so far.
Okay, thank you.
And maybe one more has just raised their hand.
So the I Ching is an ancient Chinese system of divination. It is one of the oldest books of divination in the world. It is primarily a set of 64 6-line configurations called hexagrams. Hex meaning 6, and there's lines that are associated with that, solid and broken lines that manifest in 64 different aspects. And those are changing lines as well that continue to show you present and future aspects for the inquirer. There's a question that can be asked, but we will go into those details. Each solid or yang line and broken yin line represents specific energetic manifestations that combine to form an answer to a question. This was an oral tradition long before it became a text format. Just like the sutras, you know, the Buddha's teaching were oral until they were written down. And there is an interpretation of each of these resulting hexagrams that describes the meaning to answer that question being asked. And we're going to go over how this is done in greater detail. But the I Ching serves as both an oracle and a book of ancient wisdom. And it can be consulted to provide daily guidance or special instructions in how to approach a specific situation. The I Ching has had a profound influence on Chinese medicine, philosophy, martial arts, feng shui, science, and on my life. So first, a little background. The 64 hexagrams of the I Ching were preceded by Fu Shi in 2852 BCE. He elaborated, invented, discovered this Bagua system consisting of 8 trigrams, which explains the structure of the cosmos. And again, this is a big study, and I encourage all of you who are interested to continue your investigation of this science. We'll revisit the Bagua relationship to the elements and various other correspondences in part 6, our exploration of feng shui. But King Wen in 1100 BCE took Fu Shi's 8 trigrams and created 64 hexagrams that we now know as the I Ching, or Book of Changes. It is the earliest classic text explaining the formation of the universe and the relationship of man to the universe and to each other. The imagery of the I Ching came from the ancients' way of looking at the cosmos and invisible origin and counterpart of all visible things, both invisible and visible, that make up the cosmic whole. And in addition, the creative or yang energy, you're going to hear me speak a lot about yin and yang. I think most of you have seen the symbol of yin yang, the circle with half white, half black, with the seed of each in each. The white has a little dot of black. The black has a little dot of white. Stating that there's no completely yin or completely yang. Each has the seed of the other within it. So we will revisit the Bagua, or this yin yang, in our other correspondences as well. So King Wen, 1100 BC, took Fushi's 8 trigrams and created the 6 hexagrams. It is the earliest classic text. And the imagery of the I Ching came from looking at the cosmos, as we were saying, and its counterpart in everything, all creation, the manifestation of yin and yang, developing in the 5 elements and all of creation. In addition, we were saying that the creative or yang energy is associated with the sun, with light, with the Father, and in the I Ching, it's associated with the heavens. And the receptive or yin energy is associated with the earth, brings the warmth, mother, and is into material existence, brings all things into material existence, and therefore is associated with nurturing and mothering, and is known as the earth, or the receptive. So the creative yang energy came to be seen as the primordial father of all things, while the receptive came to be seen as the primordial mother of all things. And just a little bit more explanation about yin and yang. You know, unlike the Western view, to see polarities as opposites and even as destructive to each other, such as fire and water, in this view, all polarities were seen as complementary, interactive, and essential to the functioning of the whole. Fire and water, to take that example a little further, when seen as complementary relationships, create balance and harmony, like the sun and rain. In this system, we see the interaction of yin and yang energies to be the engine that drives the universe. Their interaction was seen to drive the rotation of the seasons, the rising of the yang energy of spring manifesting in the light. You know, we're now in the springtime, we see more light available. That's a yang energy. And then the yang reaches its limit and can no longer advance. The yang force begins to retreat, diminishing through the winter solstice as the yin advances and darkness pervades more and more. Then again, the cycle continues. Then the mounting of the yang force begins and the sun once again begins to increase, and life goes on. Yin and yang are seen as partners in this engine of change. And it's true not only in the seasons, but it has its time of increase and decrease, each indispensable to the other, and the balance as a whole. So they are seen as 2 halves of a whole. It's like I was mentioning, the famous yin-yang circle. I will show some pictures or visuals that will convey this a little bit more in some different ways. But the 64 hexagrams are arranged in patterns. In the primary hexagram, the creative, the heaven, is represented as all yang lines. That's all solid lines. And the receptive earth, which is the second of the hexagrams. They are done in order, progressively, 1 through 64. And I will show you about that as we continue. But the receptive, the lines are all yin. So we have the contrast between yin and yang, but are complementary. Excuse me. Most, if not all, of the various branches of knowledge, including traditional Chinese medicine, feng shui, martial arts, and the rest, begin with this view. So understanding yin and yang is very important and significant as a world view. This universe is seen as the play of yin and yang, resulting in the manifestation of myriad forms. We mentioned the 5 elements. So from the totality, in Taoism, it's the Tao, we can say the Dharmakaya. Out of that comes the yin yang, the separation, and then the 5 elements and all of creation. So apparent opposites manifesting as mind body, masculine feminine, sun moon, hot cold, positive negative, up down, inside outside, back front. You know, these are the creative receptive. These are all aspects of yin and yang. I think most of you are familiar with that concept, but it is important that we just mention those things to get the ground for what we're going to be talking about. So the creative and receptive forces were observed to act as polar and paired complements. Again, just to name a few, odd and even, positive, negative energies, male, female, light, dark, hot, you know, all of these things are 2 forces of the creative and receptive. The I Ching is the most ancient book, as I said, and widely considered as a basic guide for conscious living. So you could read the I Ching as a book, but it is used as a counsel for the questioner to get insight into a particular situation. So although there are references in the commentaries of Chan, Zen, Huayin, and other Buddhist schools, there's no extensive literature until Hui composed a Buddhist version of the I Ching in the 17th century, and we'll talk more about him in a moment. So there is a Buddhist orientation towards the I Ching, and it is good to have different copies of the I Ching, this book of changes. There are several. The ones that I use the most is the Wilhelm Baines edition. And I will give that's one of the slides that I have. So how do we arrive at an answer to a query? Let's just see if I can bring up some of our pictures here. Can you see this? Do you have this?
Not yet, Lama.
Not yet.
Not appearing yet, yeah.
Okay, let's go back and see. This would be good to know that we can do this or not. So do I have a screen share?
Yes, you're a co-host, so you do have screen share capacity. So far, we're still seeing your video.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to get the screen share. Let's see if I can get that. Bear with me.
No problem.
This is a work in progress.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be, you probably know this already, but it should be whichever square of your screens that has the, I think, a blue highlight around it is the one that it'll show.
Yeah. All right, I seem to have lost something here. Let me get back.
Ah, something's happening. I think you're getting close.
Something is happening. Nothing yet, huh?
No, not yet. It's still a blank screen. It just says that you're screen sharing.
Okay. It shows that I'm screen sharing, but you're not seeing anything.
Correct. Yeah, it's still a black screen.
Right.
Okay, it looks like you just need to enlarge that window that has the Mo text, the text with the title Mo on it.
Mm-hmm. See if I can bring that on.
Yeah, just over on the right. I think if you click the box at the top of the window, up a little higher. On the very, very tippy top of that window on the right, you'll see the reduce, enlarge, and cancel signs.
Yes. Well, that's getting larger, but it's not one go.
And it's, if you see where your cursor is right now,
Yeah.
up at the edge of the screen, yeah, right under the word emergency. If you go to your right, slide all the way over to the right at that level, and
Yeah.
click the square. There's a dash, a square, and an X. And if you click the square, maybe it may not be visible to you. That might be the problem.
Yeah, it's not visible to me.
Okay.
Some other things on over there that's not visible. Let me see if I can get the, I've got the people there. Let's get that out of there. But it may be okay. Is it moving?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
So let's see if, oh, no, it's not. Hopefully we're going to be able to use this. Sorry for the confusion. Yeah,
It's okay. It's Zoom is just like this. It's very difficult to screen share.
yes.
One of our participants just said if you double click on the top bar of the window that might do it. Yeah, right there. You can try that.
Double clicking.
Good luck. Okay.
All right, let's see if we can go down some more. Oh, there's Manjushri. Do you see Manjushri?
Yes, the bottom part of the picture. Yes.
Okay. Oh boy, I can't seem to get this larger where I want it. So there's the Mo picture. Bear with me. Trying to get to the I Ching portion. That's the Mo portion.
Another participant, Lama, just suggested if you see your menu at the very top where it says File, Edit, View, and so on, if you click View, you should be able to enlarge from there as well. At the top of your Adobe Acrobat screen. It's the View, yes, exactly.
Okay.
And it might be page display perhaps, or full screen mode. Full screen mode right below that, yeah. Thank you, Tom. Okay, we got it. Thank you.
We're good there. Okay, excellent.
Excellent.
Yay. Okay, so this is the book that I like to use, the I Ching, a book of changes by Richard Wilhelm. So that is the text that I'm going to be referring to and showing you. And when I mentioned the hexagram, which there is composed of 2 trigrams, and this, so you see the 6 lines at the it starts at the bottom. So there's 2 broken lines and then 4 solid lines. We're going to go into that in a little bit, but there was something else that I wanted to show you. Great, at least we're able to do this. So the way we actually cast the I Ching, and I'm just going to leave this up for a moment if it's all right. In earlier days, the questioner would throw down 49 yarrow sticks. These are the thin reeds made from a yarrow plant, and the pattern of the sticks would coincide with a particular hexagram. But over time, coins have replaced the yarrow sticks, so we use the coins, and they don't have to be fancy coins. At 3 pennies will do to arrive at this. And as you're looking at this, the trigrams, there's a left trigram and a right top. You see the 3 other trigrams. So when you throw your coins, you're going to get a lower trigram and an upper trigram, and we'll into these names. And so the simple method of doing this, you can see this shows how one records the throw of the coins for the hexagram. The coins have one side designated as yin, so usually we say the tails are yin and the heads are yang, just like we usually call heads and tails, but tails are yin and heads are yang. And tossing the coins rather than the sticks produces a similar result. So the results of each of these coin tosses determines which type of line is placed on the hexagram. So to answer the question being asked, the seeker tosses 3 coins 6 times. Each time the result of the toss is recorded as either a broken or a solid line, as it says. Beginning with the first toss, the result is recorded as the bottom line. Each toss of the coin results in the next corresponding line, and so on until we have all 6 lines.
I think we lost Lama Losang for a moment, and so he'll probably have to try to. Here's the first question. Can one see Yabyum as a depiction of Yang Yin?
Yeah, you can. You know, that is the aspect of skillful means and wisdom. The female is always wisdom, and the action is yang. So it is. We could look at those 2 aspects of yin and yang. Yes, male and female energies.
Thank you. And then another question is, the participant has heard about possibly using a mala for divination, and is that an approach related to or that can be used with I Ching or Mo?
Not that I'm aware of, actually. I think maybe Mo, but that is not a standard use. So we're not going to be talking about that so much, and it's not in my experience either, so I really can't elaborate on that. But yes, you're right. The mala is used in that way. There are many things that are used. You know, you probably heard of looking at tea leaves and things like that. But this is a very specific divination that has been used over the centuries.
Thank you. Those are the only 2 questions that we had so far. And the break is officially over now, so we can probably proceed.
Okay, so in brief, I want to just to consult the oracle using the 3 coin method. And as I was saying, there's no need for special coins. Pennies will do. First, one meditates. You know, you want to get your mind in the proper perspective. So start with a few minutes of shamatha, which we talked about during our first session on meditation. It was in part 1. And I think many of you, hopefully all of you, are familiar with shamatha tranquility meditation to make the mind malleable, to make it useful, to make it tranquil. So we can attend to put our mind in that meditative space. So then carefully consider the question you are about to ask. Keep it simple, straightforward. Often it's recommended to just use 6 words in your questioning. And then after formulating your question, you pick up your coins, holding them in, the question in your mind's eye, shake the coins, and then toss them on a flat surface 6 times and record the tosses according to the following system that we've mentioned. So tails have a value of 2 and heads a value of 3. So starting with the bottom line, create the 2 3-lined, one on top of the other, the last toss being the top line of the hexagram, and you record the coin tosses. 3 tails are yin, that is 3 broken lines, that comes to 6. So you the 3 tails are 6, and that is a broken line. So you mark a small X in the center of that changing line, knowing that it is changing. And if I can get back to the slides, we'll be able to show that a little better. I'm a little hesitant to do that at this point, but we're going to give it another try along the way. So 3 tails are considered 6, which is a broken line. And because it is 6, it's a changing line, you put an X in the center of that broken line. Then 3 heads, if you throw 3 heads with any of the throws, it's 9. And then you draw a solid line with a small circle in the center of that solid line. Again, these are changing lines, and I'll tell you what that means in just a moment. 2 heads and a tail are 8. You draw a line, a broken line, but there's nothing in the middle of it. It is just a broken line. That is not a changing line. And 1 head and 2 tails is a 7. It's a solid line. And again, that's not a changing line. So these are used to create the hexagram. And each line is stacked one on top of the other. And after you have recorded the hexagram in the I Ching, you use the I Ching, Book of Changes, to interpret the meaning. And if you toss the coins, you get either 3 tails or 3 heads. These are considered changing lines, as I mentioned, and have a special significance in creating the future hexagram. So everything has to do with a certain synchronicity, and there is a change that is transitioning from the toss that you made. You're going to change the hexagram, changing the changing lines to their opposite. So if you had 3 yang lines, 3 heads, that was a 9. That is a solid line. And as I said, we're recording it with a little circle in the center. When we change, that 9 is going to change to a broken line, from a solid line to a broken line. And then we're going to look up again. It's going to be a different hexagram as you look it up in the book, such as the book that I was talking about, the Wilhelm Baines edition. And that was the picture that I did show you. Hopefully you got a good look at that. So the broken lines made by the toss of the 3 tails to a solid line, and then change the solid line made by the toss of the 3 heads to a broken line. This will result in a completely different hexagram, as I mentioned, and represents the future outcome. In the same way, you arrived at the first reading. Once again, you have a new hexagram, and go back to the key and find the hexagram in the text and read the general text. There will be no changing lines in that one. So, I'll give you an example of how I use the I Ching, but I'm going to start with a quote by Carl Jung from his foreword to the Wilhelm Baines edition. And that Wilhelm Baines edition gives a lot of information about the different judgments and the interpretation of the reading. So Carl Jung gave a foreword to the Wilhelm Baines edition of the I Ching. And for those of you who may not know who Carl Gustav Jung is, he was a very famous Swiss psychiatrist who founded analytical psychology, one of Freud's students. Jung was influential in the fields of psychiatry, anthropology, archaeology, literature, philosophy, and religious study. He was born on July 26, 1875, and died June 6, 1961. Coincidentally, we have the same birthday, July 26th. He was a brilliant thinker who devoted his life to benefit others. He was one of the great teachers I studied while training in psychology at the University of Florida, where I finished my PhD. He was a seeker of the truth and was not afraid to think outside the box. So he did this introduction, which was really a stretch for a Westerner. This is what he said in his foreword. Even to the most biased eye, he said, it is obvious that this book represents a long admonition to the careful scrutiny of one's own character, attitude, and motives. This attitude appeals to me and has induced me to write this foreword. It is by no means easy to feel one's way into such a remote and mysterious mentality as that underlying the I Ching. End quote there. So Carl Jung was very influenced by this technology of the I Ching. And out of his interest and study, it became an underpinning, actually, of his philosophy and his psychology, this view of reality found in the I Ching. And he came to call this expression of interrelatedness of things synchronicity. So there is a certain synchronicity when we throw the coins and the perfection of that moment. He defines it as coming together of inner and outer events in a way that cannot be explained directly, and but is meaningful to the observer or to the inquirer. So Jung's presentation of this idea of synchronicity would radically challenge the well-entrenched beliefs of modern society and certainly psychology in the West. It allowed us to take a fresh look and to possibly revise our beliefs about science, religion, and our relationships with ourselves and the world. So these synchronistic events show us the interconnectedness of all things, between mind and body, between human beings and nature, and some things between human beings and those things that are not readily explainable with our ordinary empirical reality. So Jung's psychology was very much influenced by the I Ching, which contributed greatly to this conception of synchronicity that he proposed. So the I Ching is a resource that I call upon to help answer perplexing questions when I need an enlightened perspective on certain situations. And it highlights the interdependence or dependent arising of all things. And I will give an example from my life that is very profound and direct. But first, again, a little preliminary. Let me explain what prompted me to consult the I Ching for advice. This particular reading that I'm going to share with you. The decision to do the traditional Karma Kagyu 3-year retreat was not easy. Lama Kathy knows this situation. Making the decision to leave the comfort of family and friends and my place in the community to do a 3-year, 3-month, 3-week retreat was huge and would have sweeping consequences, much more than I knew at the time. Again, just a little background. I was the founder and director of the primary teacher for the Florida School of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. I had students, I had patients, I had a large acupuncture practice, and many patients that required attention. And I was the founder of our Dharma Center here in Gainesville, Karmatex and Choling, and for well over 30 years. Now over 30 years. And now for the really difficult part of that decision was it also meant leaving my partner and the love of my life, Joy, and our family for 3 years, 3 months. Joy was great. She was willing to assume the responsibilities of the school, managing the staff, students, administrating all the duties that go with it, and the financial considerations, both personal and professional. It was a daunting task. So Joy and I had talked about retreat for a long time, and she knew that this was something that I was planning and hoping to do someday. And now the time has arrived. She knew that this was something I was planning. We had previously spoken with Lama Kathy, actually. She was in Gainesville, and I don't know if she remembers, we were having lunch, and we talked about my doing retreat. She had done the first 3-year retreat with Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche. And she was also married at the time of her retreat. She is one of the few retreatants who has remained married following retreat. Lots of things happen in retreat and as a consequence of retreat. So this was to be the 3rd retreat under the supervision of my teacher, Retreat Master Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche. However, it was rumored that Rinpoche was not in good health, and this could be the last retreat that he would personally guide. So it was with all these considerations swimming in my head that I approached Joy with my dilemma, and I asked her permission and blessing to do the next retreat, which was only at that point a few weeks away. She was amazing and offered me the opportunity to follow my heart and complete the long-time aspiration to go into retreat. And we cried and laughed and went about, talked about the potential benefits and problems that we faced. And then she said to call Rinpoche and to see if there was an opening available for me. And that afternoon, I did call Karmaling Retreat Center to speak with Karma Lodro, the retreat manager, about my possibilities for acceptance into the next retreat. And Rinpoche is not always available to grant permission, and immediately doesn't always say okay in these situations to enter retreat. Many preliminaries are necessary. In addition, there can be family matters, financial limitations, health problems, to name a few that can be problematic in retreat. And one of the prerequisites is the ability to read Tibetan text for the pujas and practices that are done in retreat, that are all read and chanted in Tibetan. And my Tibetan was not good, to say the least, to put it mildly. And when I called the retreat center, Karma Lodro answered the phone. And after our greetings, I told him, my reasons for calling, that I wished to join the next retreat. And he said that Rinpoche was standing right there and he would ask him. Rinpoche was amazing in that way. There are many experiences that I could say that he was right there when I had a situation, but he was right there. And my immediate thought was, oh, how auspicious that Rinpoche should be there at this time. But I was also nervous about his answer. And Rinpoche's answer came immediately and with no hesitation. He said yes. And with the addendum, study Tibetan. So he seemed to know all my strengths and weaknesses and still agreed to my request. So that's so how does this pertain to the study of the I Ching? Well, as you might imagine, what follows my consultation with the I Ching, the answer the I Ching gave me to the question that I was presenting Although my family and friends were supportive, it was a life-changing decision that I was about to make. And I wanted to be the right decision. It was the biggest and probably most important decision of my life. I wanted to be sure. This was a time that I turned to the Book of Changes for advice and counsel. After a brief meditation and to settle myself and calm my mind, I posed my question, is this the time for retreat? I considered the question carefully, and it had all the important elements within the question. And one tries to be concise. As I mentioned, we want to be concise with our question and clear in formulating the question in about 6 words. My method of using the I Ching was a standard method of throwing the 3 coins 6 times to get the appropriate hexagram to the query. And I use 3 Chinese coins. Those are the ones with the little hole in the center of it. You don't need to have special coins, but I've had these coins for some times and have been using them for decades. So I took the coins from their gold wrapper. I have it wrapped in gold cloth, and contemplating the question, shook the coins in my hand and dropped them on the puja table in front of me, and did that 6 times, writing down each time, each line in a book that I use for keeping track, recording the answers to my myriad questions over the years. And writing down each line, 1 line at a time, there are the 6 lines of the hexagram. Included in my notes for each consult is the date, the question, and the answer given. And I suggest if you're going to do this, you keep a diary of sorts of your questions and answers. They can be useful. In addition, making a note of my changing lines, and there were some changing lines in that initial throw. And these give special emphasis to the reading and then point to the direction in which this energy will be headed in the future, leading to a completely new and different hexagram, as I mentioned. This is the Book of Changes, and the life is consistent with ebbs and flows, increase and decrease, full and empty. So remembering the theory of yin yang, this is displayed continuously in the I Ching as a result of the changing lines. Nothing is static. It's in a constant state of change and flux. So let me be specific, and I will walk you through the experience of 20 years ago. But it is one of the few things I remember so clearly. When I look at it now, I can glean more understanding about that time and what was to follow. Even more understanding as time goes on. The resulting answer is increasingly clear. So I could have used many examples, the mystery and beauty of the wisdom of the I Ching, but I think this particular example that I'm using to demonstrate the I Ching is a good example to illustrate my point. So the answer to my question, is this the time for retreat? The I Ching gave me the hexagram number 33, retreat. That couldn't have been clearer. And I hesitate to even say it, but I was so concerned that I did the I Ching 3 times with that same question. And remarkably, I don't know what the odds are for this, but it was retreat 3 times in a row. I think that is, I don't know what the odds are. We'll have to have a mathematician figure that out, but it is astronomical, the possibilities of the I Ching, the 64 possibilities, and to throw that 3 times. Usually, we're confident about the I Ching. We wouldn't end its counsel, but as I say, to summarize the judgment of this, what it said in this particular number 33, retreat, to summarize, The power of this is from the I Ching itself. The power of the dark is ascending. The retreat is a matter not of a man's will, but of natural law. In this case, retreat is the right course. It is through retreat that success is achieved. But success consists in being able to carry out the retreat correctly. Retreat is not to be confused with flight. Flight means saving oneself under any circumstances, whereas retreat is a sign of strength. We must be careful not to miss the right moment while we are in full possession of power and position. In addition, there was a special line, as I mentioned, a changing line, which has special significance. And the 9 at the top was cheerful retreat. Everything serves to further. That was explained from the I Ching. It stated the situation is unequivocal. Inner detachment has become an established fact, and we are at liberty to depart. When we see one's way ahead, thus clearly, free of all doubt, a cheerful mood sets in, and one chooses what is right without further thought. Such a clear path ahead always leads to the good. It brings tears to my eyes to think of that now. That was the answer to my question, and it allowed me to persevere with confidence. So, I think what I was going to show you was just the actual I Ching from the Book of Changes, but you have the gist, I think, of how that works. And maybe, boy, time goes by so fast. We're already at 11 o'clock, which is our break time. So I hope that gives you a little feeling about the power of the I Ching, and certainly its influence in my life in this situation. And maybe we could, we want to take some time for Lama Kathy to talk a little bit and show some slides of the development, the construction of the KTC. Maybe we can take a question or two, and then we'll take a break. Hopefully you're still with me.
Yeah. Yes, we're still here, and I'm thinking that that some questions have come across. Someone was asking which side of the coin is heads and which side is tails.
Yes, just like when you flip a coin with pennies, the heads are the yang and the tails are the yin. And so as I mentioned, they have a number. So the tails are seen as 2 and the heads 3. They have the value of 2 and 3, tails 2, heads 3. And so when you count up the 3, it's going to be 6 or 9 or 8 or 7. So the 3 yin lines would be a 6. The 3 yang lines would be a 9. 2 heads and a tail would be an 8, which is a yin line. And 1 head and a tail would be a 7, a solid line.
Mm-hmm. And on the Chinese coins, is there a set heads and tails?
You just make the decision.
Okay.
You just decide which one you want.
You can make your own decision.
Yes.
Okay, that was the only one I see. Did you see any questions, Tanya?
I didn't see any others. I scrolled up and I think we've got them all, but if we've missed any, please go ahead and just repost it to the chat.
Yeah,
I hope that wasn't too confusing.
So far, so good. Tanya, is it possible for people to unmute and ask questions that way?
Oh, sorry, I've just enabled unmuting. So yes, people can do that now.
So for the next minute or two, if anybody has questions and doesn't have the chat function, you can ask on audio. Okay, I'm not hearing questions, so I'm assuming that we're then at the end of the first part of our program. And a couple of people have mentioned in chat, Lama, that your story was very moving for them. And I can really relate as well, because we all, it was the most momentous decision of our lives to decide to go into 3-year retreat, because it's truly stepping into the unknown, because not only do you not know what the retreat will be like, you also don't know what your life will be like afterwards. So it's a moment in time that we choose to do. And so I really appreciate you sharing the auspicious story, because being students of Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche and knowing how remarkable he was, to know that you had that kind of connection and that he was right there with you and supported you was just It's an amazing story. And thank you so much for sharing the story and for sharing your teaching.
Did you remember we had a conversation at 7:06? We were out having lunch one day. Yeah.
I can't remember precisely what I said, but I often say to people that if people ask me whether the retreat is worthwhile, I am the wrong person to ask, because I will always say that it's pretty much a great thing to do, even if we can't do it in this lifetime, to always aspire to do it, even if it's not practical to us for several reasons. But I actually remember that I believe we were outside at a cafe table, and I remember a lot of things about it.
Yes.
We have one quick question, which is, Lama, you referenced the Wilhelm Baines book, and are there any others you would recommend, or is that the main one?
The other one was from a Buddhist, it's called the Buddhist I Ching, actually, by Chi Su Hui, CHIH-HSU, Jisoo, and last name Hui, OU-I. And it's called the Buddhist I Ching from Shambhala printing press. And I do have something, I refer to sometimes more than one I Ching to get a view, but really by far, I prefer the Wilhelm Baines edition.
Thank you, Lama. And another question, is Mo the same thing, or is it something different?
Mo is different. Mo is a different divination system that is Tibetan. This is Chinese I Ching that comes from that ancient Chinese system of divination. The Mo is very Tibetan, and we'll talk more about Mo when we return for part 2.
Thank you. That seems to be the end of the questions right now.
All right. So Lama,
our general habit is to take a 5-minute break, and the time is now 7 minutes past the hour, and we will resume at roughly 12 minutes past the hour. Feel free to mute your, I'm sorry, we will be muting microphones. And then also feel free to turn off your video unless you would like to share with the rest of the group. So we're going to be pausing the recording also. Thank you.
Thank you, Lama. Okay, so we'll begin with Mo. I do want to leave some time for you, Lamala, but I guess we should go on with the Mo presentation. Are there particular questions that we should attend to now?
No, I think it's fine. Yeah, and I do apologize. I had a communication come through during the break that I had to handle, so I wasn't able to prepare. I'll prepare some things now.
Okay. So we'll go on with the Mo and see how far we can get with that. It, all of these are really vehicles for cultivating bodhicitta. It's been taught that the highest good is to benefit other beings. And this is exemplified by the bodhisattva who strives to gain a perfect enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So in addition, he would not, or she would not hesitate to use any method that would bring relative or ultimate happiness to others. So with that in mind, the bodhisattva has taken a vow to assist others by giving them spiritual teachings, material objects such as medicine, food, also protection, compassion, loving kindness, and the right view on how to deal with the travails of worldly existence. So in this specific case, it is the great bodhisattva of wisdom, Manjushri, whose blessing and advice are sought in order to ascertain the question that we're asking when we use the Mo. And Manjushri, as I think most of you know, is recognized as the embodiment of wisdom of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, past, present, and future. So people over the centuries have had great confidence that Manjushri would be a proper guide for them to help with all of the vicissitudes of worldly existence, and that he would lead them with his transcendent wisdom to accept that which is most beneficial and to abandon all that would be harmful. In addition, they trusted his guidance to eventually lead them to perfect enlightenment. So based upon the Kalachakra Tantra, and with the supplementary explanations from the Ocean of Dakinis, this prediction manual, the Mo, is based on the Manjushri mantra Om Ra Patsanadi, and was composed by Jamgon Mipam, who lived in 1849 to 1912. So it's relatively new when we compare it to the I Ching. But he was one of the great luminaries of Tibetan Buddhism in modern times. He was an important member of the Rimé or non-sectarian movement, which did much to strengthen and preserve Buddhism in its many manifestations. Consequently, he studied with great masters of the four main schools of Tibetan Buddhism in monasteries that were like our universities. They were the seat of wisdom and for the cultivation of inner sciences. So in the foreword to the book Mo, Tibetan Divination System, His Holiness Shakya Trinzen states that there are two primary functions for divination. And we can apply this both to the Mo and to the I Ching. First of all, it is a system that is used to help ourselves to see a situation or event clearly. And secondly, if we use it for others with the motivation of performing a selfless act of giving, as the Bodhisattva's motivation is, it enhances our practice of the Bodhisattva's path to enlightenment. So just as the I Ching comes from a rich heritage of China, Mo has a rich Tibetan history and was compiled by the great master Jamgon Mipam. And it is Manjushri's speech as exemplified by his sacred mantra, Ara Patsanadi, and his all-pervasive wisdom that empower the seeker to obtain an accurate answer to their question. So I have another personal anecdote to share with you about the power of prognostication potential of this Mo system of divination. Just as the I Ching guided me in confirming my readiness for retreat, there is another experience and application of Mo divination in my life. I mentioned when we talked about Tai Chi in part 2, how it helped me recover from a debilitating stroke that left me paralyzed on my right side. However, there is more to that story. I was in, just as a reminder, I was in New York And we were just beginning the morning prayers at the 9th North American Munlan. That was June 2018, prayers for peace, when I experienced a massive stroke that instantly paralyzed my right side, the right side of my body. While I was putting on my chugu, which is the outer yellow robe that monastics, monks wear in formal ceremonies, my legs just gave out and I dropped to the floor and not able to move my right arm or leg. I could still speak, and although in shock and confused, I was able to respond when the young monk next to me asked if I was okay. And I was able to get the words out, I'm having a stroke. I'd never had a stroke before, but that was clearly the symptoms of a stroke. And he immediately went for help. And fortunately, because it was such a large gathering, there was medical help available. And I was rushed to an ambulance to Lenox Hill Hospital in Manhattan. As I mentioned, I was in New York to attend the annual North American Munlan with many of our esteemed lineage teachers, including His Holiness, the 17th Jalom Karmapa, who was teaching at the time, and my teacher, Khenpo Karta Rinpoche, who was also in attendance, and hundreds of Rinpoches, Khenpos, Lamas, monks, nuns, and lay participants were there. And they were all very concerned about me because I created quite a scene having to be carried out during the Karmapa's teaching because I couldn't walk on my own. So Lama Kathy was there, excuse me, and she witnessed that as well. So in the hospital, after much testing and evaluation, the conclusion was I had a massive stroke, and the post-stroke prognosis for what my life might look like in the future was still unknown. We would just have to wait and see how I progressed over the following weeks, months, or years with rehab and follow-up care. Unfortunately, given the extent of the damage to my brain, it was not uncommon to have a long and difficult process of rehabilitation and physical therapy to regain the capacity to walk. So I was in the hospital, and the next day, Khenpo Rinpoche, along with the Khenpos, Khenpo Tenkyong, Khenpo Ujin, Khenpo or Lama Karma from Karmatrayana, Dharma Chakra from our KTT monastery in Woodstock, I came to my hospital room to visit. And although I couldn't lift my arm to shake their hand or move my leg to stand and greet them, I felt blessed just to be in their company of my precious teachers. Two things happened during that visit with them that powerfully affected the course of my recovery. Firstly, Khenpo Rinpoche told me that the night of my stroke, he had performed a Mo divination to assess my condition and receive the prediction that would follow. And to my delight and amazement, he said, "Do not worry, you will be fine and make a complete recovery." Again, it brings tears to my eyes to think about that situation and his kindness and compassion in being there for me in that situation. Those words from my teacher gave me such confidence to accept my current situation and completely trusted, I completely trusted Rinpoche as his words that I would be fine and completely recover. And remembering Rinpoche's words right from the beginning of my therapy allowed me to work hard and to know that I would regain full functioning. I do believe what we think we become. And I was so grateful to Rinpoche for doing the Mo for me and creating the auspicious conditions for my recovery. In addition, Khenpo Ujin said, do medicine Buddha practice, and that he would do it for me and that I should do the practice and recite the mantra to facilitate healing. I have included I've been doing the medicine Buddha right along prior to that, and continually. I still do this practice every day. So I do have tremendous confidence in the power of the mind in prayer. Just to reiterate what was mentioned about the application of the Mo divination, the Bodhisattva uses whatever method or tool is available to benefit beings. In this case, Khenpo Rinpoche's kindness and compassion in doing the Mo divination, and Khenpo Urgyen's prayers and advice to me at the time of their visit in the hospital, I'm sure changed the trajectory of my thinking and propelled me to take appropriate action, and contributed greatly to my healing. So in retrospect, my progress in healing was really quite amazing. And over the weeks that followed, I progressed rapidly, and my physicians, nurses, therapists said they did not see patients progress that quickly, given the nature of my stroke. So I attribute the remarkable healing to the above mentioned factors, to Tai Chi, which helped coordinate my movement and help reprogram my brain as a moving meditation, and strengthen my muscles, and brought life to, chi and blood to the tissues, and helped coordinate my movements and accelerate my progress, from wheelchair to walker to cane and back to the tennis court again, which I still play now. So that is a direct experience of the power of Mo, and it worked out that way for me. And I'm so grateful to Khenpo Rinpoche's kindness and compassion in presenting me with that catalyst to help my healing. So how do we cast the Mo? All Mo practices start with meditation to quiet the mind in preparation, like we mentioned with the I Ching. It is recommended to perform the following. So let your awareness come to the breath, relax and open. Begin with shamatha, or tranquility meditation, as we discussed. And next, we continue our meditation with the visualization of Manjushri. And Jamgon Mipam suggests in his text, Mo Tibetan Divination System, that you imagine the great Bodhisattva of wisdom, Manjushri, in the sky in front of you. His body is golden, one face, two hands. His right hand holds the flaming sword of wisdom, while his left hand holds at his heart the stem of a blue lotus flower. And the flower blossoms beside his left ear, and upon it rests a copy of the book, the Sutra of Perfection of Wisdom, the Prajnaparamita. His 2 feet are crossed in the Vajra position, and he appears in the form of a 16-year-old boy. I'm thinking that he is blessing the dice while you recite the following verse. And I will share this with you. I'm going to try again with our video. We'll see how it goes. But Jamgon Mipam tells us to recite the following. And again, I have it on a slide, and it is also in the text that I'll recommend to you. Om, magnificent Manjushri, who possesses the eye of transcendental wisdom, which unobstructedly sees all 3 times, please take heed of me. Through the power of the truth of non-deceiving, interdependently arising 3 jewels and 3 roots, please make clear what should be expected and what should be discarded. So we recite that. This is the mantra of dependent origination. Then recite the mantra of Manjushri as many times as you can. That is Om A Ra Pat Sa Na Di. Om A Ra Pat Sa Na Di. 3, 7, 108 times to begin to resonate. This is the principal mantra of Manjushri. And we use the 5 middle syllables, a, ra, pa, sa, na, and these are said to represent the 5 Buddha families. So the last D represents the wisdom of all Buddhas. So then the Tibetan reciting the mantra of interdependent origination, Om Yadharma Hetu Prabhava Hetumte Ken Tatagato Haya Watate Ken Sayo Niroda Evam Wadi Maha Shramana Soha. So this mantra is translated as the Tathagata has explained the origin of these things which arise from a cause. Their cessation too has also been explained. This is the doctrine of the great sage. This is the Buddha's 5th instruction and a profound insight into interdependent origination. So this mantra of interdependent origination requires, understanding. We have to have the right view about this. Requires a deep exploration of understanding, and its inclusion as part of the prerequisite for consulting Mo as a divinatory instrument is very profound. To understand the profundity of the Buddhist teaching, we must understand the interplay of causes and conditions and their results. So the translation of interdependent origination is a translation from the Sanskrit pratitya samudpada. Other translations, we're calling this interdependent origination, but sometimes you'll see it as dependent arising or dependent co-origination, interdependence, relativity, auspicious coincidence. These are all aspects of what the Buddha taught in terms of interdependent origination. Some of you may be familiar, this becomes an important teaching that is worth sharing. The Pratitya Samudpada is the name for the Buddha's teaching on cause and effect. And he elucidated how all our situations and experiences arise because of the coming together of a multitude of factors. This refers to the 12 nidanas, or the 12 links of interdependent origination. Some of you are familiar with the wheel of life, sometimes more accurately called the wheel of becoming. So they show this is all part, and this Mo is also part of this interdependent origination. It shows the relationship of the wheel of life shows the entire cycle of suffering based on ignorance, greed, and anger. And we could go on to talk more about that for some time, but all the teachings of the Buddha can be found in the Pratitya Samudpada and summarized in the mantra that we just mentioned. In this sutra, one of the Buddha's original 5 disciples, when he was gained his enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, and he taught his original 5 wanderers that were looking for the truth. One of those 5 was Asaji. So in the sutra, the Buddha's original, one of the 5 disciples that he taught right after his enlightenment was the Arhat Asaji. And he was asked by Shariputra, one of the Buddha's main disciples, who became one of but at the time he was just a wandering ascetic. And Shariputra at that time was one of the many wandering ascetics in India. He asked Asaji, what did the Buddha teach? And Asaji's answer was translated as regarding dharmas that arise from a cause, the Tathagata taught their cause and also their cessation. Those were the words of the great mendicant. So this mantra includes a reference to the 4 noble truths, the 12 links of dependent origination. And upon hearing this, Shariputra entered the stream of the Buddhist teaching, the first stage of the path. And this mantra recitation has been used for centuries to increase the blessing and purify all Dharma activity and remove any wrong views. So consequently, this mantra is associated with the second of the Four Noble Truths, the cause of suffering. The cause of suffering is our wrong view, our ignorance. There's so much more that we can say about this. This is the fundamental wisdom of the middle way, Nagarjuna, the great Indian scholar and philosopher credited with founding the Madhyamaka school of Mahayana Buddhism, based on the central view of emptiness, the Shunyata, wrote, "Whatever is dependently arisen is explained to be emptiness. It is independently labeled, that is the middle way." So all the things we put labels on, but they are all empty of any essential quality. This is more than, this is all we can say about that now. We'll have to leave it here for now. But so we were talking about how we're doing, how we cast the Mo. And we said one was your awareness of the breath and doing shamatha. And next is the visualization of Manjushri. Then the mantra, Om Arapatsana Di. And then the interdependent, the mantra of interdependent origination. And after that, then the fifth is you have a single die in your hand and shaking the die. You can blow on the die after reciting that, and with the blessing of the mantra recitation and of the dependent origination, blow on the die. And close your eyes, visualize Manjushri. It's good to have a picture of Manjushri, in front of you to better accustom yourself to the Sambhogakaya form with its scepters and ornaments, etc. Then bring the question to mind. If it's for yourself, or the name of the person, if you're doing it for someone else, casting a prediction. If it's not being thrown for your own behalf, then toss the die gently on a flat surface. So let's just see if I can, I may lose you, I hope not. Can you see this?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Okay, we're in the same situation. There was somehow we got to the place, I'm not sure how, but if you're using a regular die, I'm just going to give you the, when you look it up in the book, it is by the Tibetan Arapatsana Di. And there's a die that has those syllables on it that can be used, but if you're using a regular a single die. The 6 is associated with which is a Tibetan character, syllable. The 2 is associated with Ra. The 3 on the die is Pa. The 5 is Sa. The 4 is Na. And D is 1. So 6, Ra 2, Pa 3, Sa 5, Na 4, and D 1. So when you look at the text, I don't know. I'm going to have to get this. It's not working for me here, so we'll just have to settle for my verbal expression here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Lama.
Okay,
Thanks.
good.
Yeah.
This is the Mo book. If I could, I don't know if you can see it. It's relatively small. This is again by Jamgon Mipam. You can probably find this on Amazon, actually. Mo Tibetan Divination System, and there is an introduction there that will go over the various things that I talked about. So I encourage you to look at that. So we roll the die, and with the 2-syllable, the numbers put together, you look in the Mo text. In the front, there's a key to the divination. And for the correct number, you turn to the correct page, and that answers your question. And there are 11 areas of life that are given. So there's the first one is for family and property and life. This is the basic conditions of your life, including physical health, family, property. The second is intentions and aims, the goals and aims you may have or seek within the mundane or spiritual, including your business and all aspects of life endeavors. The third area is friends and wealth, the people in your life, friends and associates, financial and business affairs, enemies, those situations that may have negative karmic associations and possible danger, guests, a category in Tibet, you know, it may take several months for guests to arrive who are coming long distances. So there was always the concern for the visitors' well-being en route. Any illness, the state of your health, evil spirits, the possibility of troubles arising from some negative forces such as spirits or unwholesome environmental conditions. The eighth, spiritual practices, any obstacles, impediments in the outlook for your spiritual practice, lost articles, where to look for them, and the 10th, will they come and will the task be accomplished? This is concerned with any task that you are working on or considering, and or meeting with others, anything about accomplishing a task. And the 11th is all remaining matters. So the last subject covered involves the questions which may not fall under any of the previous ones that I mentioned, and if they're favorable or unfavorable, and give you insight into anything that may not be talked about in the other ones. So if you are planning to study the Mo, I recommend getting the Jamgon Mipam's book. The text is necessary for looking up the answer. And as I mentioned, the syllables A, 6, Ra, 2, Pa, 3, Sa, 5, Na, 4, D, 1. So that is if you're using a regular die. Again, there are die that are used that have the Tibetan syllables on them. But for our purposes, using a regular die is fine. So as we said, you know, Shakyamuni Buddha taught a particular path to enlightenment, as previously mentioned, starting with the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, the skillful activity in the world. So these practices, such as meditation, cultivation of 6 paramitas, generosity, patience, ethics, morality, etc. This is all part of and connected with our Buddha nature, and to cultivate the bodhisattva qualities of wisdom and compassion. And this text, compiled by Jamgon Mipam Rinpoche from the sacred tantras expounded by the Buddha, obtains its authority from the spiritual power of the wisdom of Manjushri. So the bodhisattva embodies the wisdom of all the Buddhas. So it is important to note that the practice of Mo in particular is for your personal use. The practice as part of a teaching on Manjushri and Prajnaparamita. If you plan on giving advice to others, the great master Jamgon Khantrul advises that you have completed the Manjushri retreat and that you have at least done 100,000 mantra repetitions, you know, so that you, if you're going to put yourself out to do this for others, you need to have a deep and abiding connection. So for those interested in practicing the method, you'll need a die. for your throws, the small book of the Tibetan divination system that contains all the information that serves as a guide through the process. And it gives all of the ways to do that I just went over briefly. And there are 36 different divinations given in the Mo. So we probably should stop there. Again, we could go on with this subject indefinitely. It is a vast undertaking, and certainly can also help your own personal practice on the Bodhisattva path. Okay, are there questions?
Yes, we have several that have been posted in the chat. The first one is, and I think this is related, this is a question that popped up just after the discussion about the I Ching. Should all the coins that you use have the same or be of the same type and value?
It's not necessary. You just need heads or tails. So 3 pennies are fine. You could have a nickel and a penny, but good to have all the same, just for congruence. But no, you will invest them with your mind and intention, your motivation.
Thank you. A couple of participants asked whether to practice Mo divination, whether it would be either required or at least advisable to have the empowerment for Manjushri practice.
Not necessary. Of course, it would be wonderful to do it, but no, you can, if you have the correct motivation and aspiration, that is enough.
Very good. And I think a couple of these other questions were answered already, so I'll skip them. But anyone, if you feel like your question wasn't answered and it should be, please just shoot me a message or post it back to the chat. The last one that I think has not been answered is whether you personally are available to do divinations for others.
I tend not to do that. I have not done that in the past. So let me know if that is a need of yours.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think I got everybody's questions, but again, if I missed one or you feel like I assumed your question was answered and it wasn't the way you intended, then please just quickly repost it and we'll get that answered for you. I think that's it. Okay, great. Here's one more that just popped up. I have the person asks, I have not seen a Manjushri retreat offered in recent memory. Is that a more restrictive practice or is it something that's kind of regularly offered at KTCs?
I don't know if it is at KTD. I mean, it is a commonly, we did have it here. Kempo Tenkyong did Manjushri in Gainesville before everything closed down. So he can do that as well. It is possible to get that empowerment and teaching.
And then I have a question too. Are there any other ethical considerations that we should be aware of before using either of these practices?
Just have the highest good. This is not a way to aggrandize your own ego. It is a path of the Bodhisattva. So having the correct motivation is key. And you know your mind. And so continuing with your progress on the path as a Buddhist practitioner, one always wishes the highest good for the individual. And but when you're doing these, generally it is for yourself. That's why the prerequisite of having the doing the retreat and having the minimum of 100,000 repetitions of Manjushri mantra, and that is usually we say it is 100,000 of each syllable. But Jamgon Mipam was very kind to say at least 1,000. I think it should probably be more, but that's what it says in the text. So we'll go with that. So we're always bring our higher self to this situation, and our intention, our motivation is key, no matter what it is we're doing. But in this situation, to visualize Manjushri and devote ourselves to understanding that it is Manjushri's wisdom that we are channeling in that sense. Yes.
Thank you very much for that. There was a partial question from, excuse me, sorry, I lost it. Mike and Jen, we only got the first part of your question and not the bulk of it. If you would like to unmute, you can ask that question.
Hey, Lama Losang. So if someone did want to have a Mo divination, would they contact you and you could put them in touch with the correct Lama, or how would that normally work in our tradition?
Yes, we would probably Kepa Urgent or would be the go-to person.
Okay, thank you.
And Lama, one more question has appeared. And I think I saw this question earlier, and I may have, I hope I'm not misunderstanding it. The mantra Om Ara Patsani Nadi,
Yes.
is that synonymous with the mantra of interdependent origination, or is that a separate mantra?
That's a separate mantra.
That's a separate mantra. And there had been a question earlier about what is that mantra?
I gave the mantra and the translation. So it is in the body. If you want to listen again to this recording, it is there.
Great, thank you. And then there's another part to the question, which is, how would I, as an English speaker, pronounce the second one, which was the one? So I guess the answer would be go back and listen to the video and practice it that way.
As I did say it in the Tibetan as well.
Yes.
I broke it down into the specific syllables, actually.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
It is also, it's also in the book, the Mo divination system. It is all there as well.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. And so far, there are no further questions in the chat. Would you like me to invite people to unmute and ask questions if they have any others?
Yes, we want to leave time for Lama Kathy to do presentation as well.
Okay, great.
So
I'm okay. I'm okay because I'll just do 5 minutes at the top of the hour. So let's go ahead and let
okay,
folks
if there
ask.
are others, thank you, Lama.
Thank you. Yes. All right. The unmuting is still available if anybody would like to do that.
Lama, I'm the one that asked. Sorry. The whole teaching was just really powerful for me. And I'm really struggling.
Yes.
I'm really struggling with the decision that I have made to leave my daughter. She's very young. And it's not permanent, but it's still I worry about how it's going to affect her life.
Yes.
If you would be willing to do that, a Mo divination for me, I would be so grateful.
Contact me, Lama Losang at gmail.com.
I will. Thank you very much.
Okay. That is a difficult decision. All right, any other comments or questions before we go on? I'll keep you in my thoughts and prayers, Mary Lee.
Lama, I do have a question. Is this something that is typically taught or emphasized in retreat at all? Or where does this normally kind of come up in Tibetan teachings as far as the Mo is concerned?
Well, it's not a retreat practice, no. It is something that it's taught in Shedra or in other kind of teachings. When we talk about divination, it is there. It is part of the tantras, and it's gone into in some detail, particularly when we talk about the time and there's a particular teaching, and it's escapes me right now. I think I mentioned it earlier, but yes, it is there as part of the Buddhist teaching.
Thank you.
Part of the Kala Chakra, actually.
Thank you.
All right, I think it's all yours, Lama.
Myself. Let's see if I can unmute myself.
There you go. Yeah.
First of all, I want to let everyone know how much I appreciate you bringing yourselves and your sincerity to this meeting today, to our get together today. And I appreciate everyone's prayers, thoughts, and honesty. And I am keeping the folks who have asked for prayers. I'm keeping them in my thoughts also. So thank you. Lama, there's one thing I wanted to mention, and that is that that KTD in the past has offered both a Manjushri retreat and a Manjushri empowerment. So I think what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to what's the right word? We're going to need to hope that when the pandemic subsides and we get to come back together again, these kinds of things can be addressed. And I really appreciate what you had to say about having the Bodhisattva motivation when one offers consultation to others, because people who are very learned in both worldly and dharmic things, they can become maybe a little bit overly confident about themselves, and then in that way not help others and not have others' best wishes and best things at heart. So I really appreciate this this reminder for us. So thank you. And what I did was I do apologize for not being prepared earlier, but I can show you a couple of pictures from our construction project. Those of you who follow the Columbus KTC on Facebook will know that our center burned down in 2016, and that Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, our teacher who passed away in 2019, he really urged us strongly to rebuild it and to make it bigger than the last one. So we doubled the size of it. We're still on the same tiny lot located 1.5 miles from the literal center of town in Columbus. You can see the downtown buildings in the distance from our location. This seems to be everybody's favorite photograph of the building, which is standing in the northeast. At the northeast corner of the building. If you can see my little cursor, this line here is the northeastern corner of the building. The bricks are on, I believe, almost all the faces of the building. Other faces of the building are still marked just with their waterproofing. Here we have waterproofing also for the basement. This is our handicap ramp, and at the apex of this ramp, which has not been completed yet, at the apex of this ramp, there will be, we hope, a small granite Buddhist monument known as a stupa, S-T-U-P-A, known as a Buddhist monument or stupa, which will contain relics. And so people will get a free circumambulation, honorative circumambulation coming up the ramp. There are no windows on the east side of the building because we chose to put our shrine at that corner. I mean, on that wall. This was what I was talking about earlier. It would have been wonderful if we would have had the money to put container gardens here so that ivy could come down the sides of the walls. It may yet happen. They may make water wands that high. We'll see. Anyhow, so in any case, that's one photograph. This is a continuation of the view from the northeast. This is going to be the front door of our building. It will be a storefront. These will all be windows. This is going to be what's called spandrel glass. It'll appear to be glass, but actually be ceramic. The original building was a tiny church that was built in 1924, and it was all wood, and that's why it burned so quickly when someone set fire to it. And we did save some of the texts and some of the images from that fire, and they will be used in our new building. This is another beautiful shot of the northeast while the bricks were going up. The project started, the building started in September, and it will finish, we hope, in July or the beginning of August. Here's that northeast view again. Everybody loves that northeast view. Here's this is the shrine room. We'll be on the second floor here, and it leads up to a cupola. There will be a Buddhist spire, a vase spire, like on the top of a Buddhist monastery. We will put one here. And I think that's the last picture in this set. Yeah, because there's a picture of Bardo Rinpoche, who we've been praying for these last few weeks, who passed away recently. So I want to then show you a couple more pictures, and then that will be the end of our presentation. Let's see if I can make this happen. Nope, that's not it. I was trying to find what I'm doing here. Here's Facebook. There's the photos. Okay, I'm going to show you our shrine design pictures. This is not our statue. Let's get this up and bigger. This is not our statue of the Buddha. This is the Buddha Akshobhya that is currently at our sister center, Karma Lang 3-year retreat center. This is the Buddha Akshobhya. This statue is 6.5 feet tall from bottom to top. And that is how tall our Buddha image will be. But our Buddha image will be different. Our Buddha image will be this is our Buddha image actually in progress in Nepal at the workshop. It's going to be Vajradhara, the Buddha Vajradhara. Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche chose the Buddha Vajradhara for us and never told us why. So now we're going to have some interesting speculation over the future years as to why he chose that over any others. So that's a little bit of those photos. I have 2 more to show. These are the fundraising pictures that we put together. This is the other favorite view, which is from the northwest. Again, there's that handicap ramp. We'll have lots of trees planted here along the way, and there's our hanging gardens. I sure wish we could do that. And then this is our front door and our side door. These are plantings that we hope to have when we're done. The next one is Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche. He was our founder, and he was the Lama we've mentioned in our stories today. A truly enlightened and compassionate soul. He's the one. He just said, "Hey, just make it bigger." So we did. There's our, and then this is a view of the shrine cabinetry that is going to be built. The distortion for perspective, we apologize for. There'll be, but the design is like this. There will be a throne for our Buddha image, which is depicted here in general. There will be statues of the lineage holders here and here. There will be a large statue of Tara, the goddess of compassion, and then also the Bodhisattva Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of compassion. Buddhist scriptures will go on this side and on this side. So we're going to fill up about, 30 feet with cabinetry. These are this is the initial depiction of our pillars and beams. The 4 pillars, there are 6 in the entire building, but the 4 central ones are symbolic of the 4 noble truths, and the 8 beams, the 8 pieces of beam here, are symbolic of the Eightfold Noble Path. So thanks very much for letting me share that little bit with you this afternoon.
Thank you, Lama. Yes, wonderful.
It's where your donations are going. So thank
Yes,
you.
please be generous. Let's get this done.
So Lama, I'd like to start the conclusion of our program by thanking you so much for giving us of your time, and to also say that if you feel you have not covered divination, you can continue it next time, or we can move on in the program. I will let you decide.
Okay, yes, we will see what's best.
Okay, and Lama, would you help us dedicate the merit of our session today?
Yes, certainly. So we do dedicate the merit of our coming together and our donations and our hope for the Columbus KTC to be successful and to grow and to be a benefit to all beings. And for the peoples of this nation, may the viruses and political unrest, wars, inequality, all kinds of poverty, unrest be quelled. May not even the words disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. And rather may fair conduct, merit, wealth, prosperity increase. And may supreme good fortune and well-being arise in the minds of all. And we dedicate this merit. May we never be separated from our precious teachers. We wish a quick and auspicious rebirth to Kempa Rinpoche and to Bardatuko Rinpoche, and may all beings be happy. Thank you. Oh,
Thank you.
Okay.
I forgot to unmute. Yes. Thank you so much, Lama. And we will be working with you to set up your next session with us, which I think will either be at the end of June or the beginning of July, whenever you're free.
All right.
Okay. My thanks to Lama Losang for this, and we dedicate your merit. And thanks to all of you for joining today and for helping us with this program on the Golden Eight-Petaled Lotus. There are several petals to go, so we'll continue this program going forward. Also, I'd like to have a shout out for the board members of the Columbus KTC who make this possible, Kim Miracle, the director, and all of the other members of the board who make this possible. Yes. And yeah, I see people applauding back in there. Yes, thank you so much. Yes. And then also, I want to send a shout out to Tanya in Kansas, our host with the most. She's we'll call her.
Yes.
We'll call her our long distance volunteer. We have several that have arisen during this Zooming period. So thank you so much, Tanya. All right. Well, I pray for all of you and wish you good day and look forward to seeing you on a future program. Yes, indeed. And you can check out Lama Losang at GainesvilleKTC.org. And then you can also learn more about his activities and the activities at his Dharma Center, as well as Jacksonville KTC, which Jacksonville, yeah, thanks for waving. Yes. JacksonvilleKTC.org. Is that right? Did I get it right, guys? Yay. Okay. All right. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Lama.
Okay.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.